chamber, said, hey, we're going to keep you all here. There's some people who have
heard, because do we love Donald Trump?
and then
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Monday. It's Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King Jr., more specifically. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. We're ready for, hopefully you're ready for some news and opinion, which is what we do here. All right, so I'm going to forego doing the normal, usual thing of like, hey, conservatives are saying something completely dumb about Martin Luther King Jr. I'm not going to do that today because they always do that. Every single year, it's the same thing. Martin Luther King Jr. would have been a conservative. No, he wouldn't have. He was a radical socialist. And that's good. I like radical socialists. Radical socialists, good. Whatever they're trying to make Martin Luther King Jr. into being, bad. Because it's not true. It's not true. My God, the guy was fighting... Before he was assassinated, murdered by white supremacists, he was fighting to unite sanitation workers, to try to unite both black and white working class folks to taking on white supremacy, which, by the way, white supremacy also, ironically, holds down white people. I know it's crazy to think about that. But it's true. It's true. It's true. Like the way that white supremacy is structured in this country, it only benefits wealthy white racists, not regular people, not working class people. So there's that. Do I wear that shirt better than you do? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna avoid all that. We're gonna get into some meaty topics here. For one, of course, crying Trump supporters, not happy about the election, obviously. We have Fox News and the Seth Rich conspiracy. That's interesting. So that is a story that is being reported in the New York Times. It's a fantastic story. I want to get into that. We also have a Trump supporter in Congress, a Trump-supporting congressman who is now throwing the rioters under the bus. That's always fun. And of course, Biden ends the Keystone XL pipelines. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. But also, I'm going to say how that, of course, predictably is not enough. So, of course, I'm going to do that. All right. So, before we dive into it, I just want to just to share a little bit of a channel milestone with you all. I just want to thank you. We have just hit 150,000 subscribers. What is this? 150,000. Over the weekend, it went from 148 to 151,000. Y'all are amazing. Holy crap. Can't thank you enough for signing up, for subscribing, for supporting the channel, sharing my work, and things like that. I love you all. It's amazing. Thank you so much. Let's hit 2,000. Let's do it. 2,000 or 200,000 or bust by the end of the year. I mistakenly said 2,000. Okay. 200,000 subscribers by the end of 2021. Let's see if we can do it, or even better. So let's do it. Let's do it. That said, crying Trump supporters. Oh, before I do that, I was talking with a friend earlier, and she's like, "Oh my God, your channel's like blowing up like over the weekend. Like, what is it?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she's like, "It's got to be the beard. Got to be the beard. That's what it is. It's beard power. If I had known that I only needed to grow an epic beard in order to get 200,000, 150,000 subscribers, and on my way to 200,000, well, I mean, then I would have grown a beard a long time ago. So it's got to be the beard. It's got to be the beard. All right. Anyway, thank you so much. Much appreciated, everybody, for helping us reach that milestone, and too many more. All right, let's do it. All right. In 2 days, President-elect Joe Biden will be sworn in as America's 46th president, which means, of course, the end of the Trump presidency after one singular failed term to try to make America great again, which they didn't do, which can't really do that because, hey, it turns out for some people, certain select groups of people all throughout the history of the country, America was really never great. But hey, we can make it that way by embracing left-wing progressive reforms and things like that. So, hey, we can actually make America great. But currently, not in the way that, of course, Trump and his supporters tried to do so. So, that said, speaking of his supporters, they're taking it as well as it could be expected with at least one coup attempt so far. Oh, well, then again, we only have a couple of days left, so, leaves on the 20th. It's the 18th. Who knows what could happen? All right, anyway, to be fair, as the end draws nearer to the, as the end of the Trump era, well, not necessarily the Trump era, but the Trump administration, I think the era is going to continue as Donald Trump's going to basically dominate Republican politics for some time. But as he gets out of power, the F Your Feelings crowd appears to be having some feelings. Fun. So now this was written in the Florida Sun-Sentinel by Anthony Mann. So he went out there and he talked to some Trump supporters, interviewed them, and found this. Quote, "Some are in mourning, expressing feelings of despair, despair, and won't even watch the new president's inauguration on TV. Others have heard so many claims that Biden and other Democrats are socialists they're apprehensive." I wish, oh my God, do I wish the Democrats were the monsters, quote unquote monsters, that Republicans say they am. The socialist, oh my God. We would actually make some progress in this country. But anyway, and some, of course, are expressing rage. That's like the default Republican position at conservatives, at Republican establishment figures that they think did not do enough for Donald Trump. Okay, so that's already funny because it's not their fault, okay? Trump, you know what happened? Trump got less votes in key states. That's kind of how it works. That's how it worked in 2016, except, it went in Trump's favor that time and not in Hillary Clinton's favor. So this is opposite that happened. He didn't get enough votes to win the Electoral College, and despite, record numbers of voters showing up for both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So you can't say Donald Trump didn't have his own little victory there in getting a lot of Republicans, a lot more Republicans this time, to actually show up. So if anything, look, okay, if Trump were really a master at media, he'd be like, most Republican votes ever, more than Mitt Romney. I am the future of the Republican Party. And even though I didn't win, I'm going to have a big impact. I'm going to play Kingmaker, and I'm going to be the greatest Kingmaker there ever was. They're going to be talking about how Donald Trump is going to run the Republican Party for the next 20 years. But no, he's too stupid to realize how important of a role he's actually going to play in Republican politics going forward. Which is also, of course, disastrous because he's going to be playing a role in Republican politics going forward. Yikes. But, okay. Anyway, so here's one person. They said, quote, I feel like I'm not in my skin. It's a horrible feeling. I don't like what they did to the president. And that one person was Florian Goldfarb. And I just got to ask, what? Like, what did they do to the president? Counted the votes? I mean, okay. Yeah, it feels bad, man. Sure. It happened. Sucks to lose. I know, we lost in 2016. Bernie Sanders lost in 2016. Bernie Sanders lost in 2020. I know what it's like. I'm on the left. I know what it's like to lose. Because we lose a lot. Okay? But at the same time, what do? We pick up and we keep trying to do electoral victories and also, you know, foment movements outside of electoral politics as well. That's what we do. We don't cry about it. Okay? So now, that's not to say progressives and liberals are different. Liberals did cry about 2016. Progressives, we were upset, obviously, but we're like, all right, let's move forward. We got to defeat Donald Trump. All hands on freaking deck. If that means making alliances with people in the Democratic Party who are not exactly our 100% allies, do not have the same kind of worldview that we do, but are much, much closer than Trump supporters, then I guess that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to try our best, all right, to try to, you know, not only defeat Donald Trump, but then also try to get a progressive into office to challenge the Democratic Party as well and to push them to the left. Obviously, it's a gigantic undertaking. Sometimes it's like Sisyphus and the Rock. Okay, not good. But anyway, I know I don't want to make this whole thing about the Democratic Party because overall, this alliance won and we defeated Donald Trump. And that's a good thing. And of course, to them, it's the worst. It's the worst. In fact, Candace Rojas, Trump supporter in Palm Beach, similarly downcast, she said, quote, I feel sad for America. Sad. Baby. Oof. She also said, I'm sorry, this is someone else. This is Michael Barnett, chairman of the Palm Beach County Republican Party, who does say this, on a more positive note for them, I'm very much looking forward to welcoming the president home to Palm Beach County. It's his home where he has his fan base and where he has the most support. We want him to know that he has friends here in Palm Beach County for a long time, even before he ran for president. Please come here and spend money, basically. Yeah, the funny thing is Palm Beach County is where Mar-a-Lago is. So Donald Trump wants to move to Mar-a-Lago once he leaves the White House. And the thing is, he can't actually live there for very long. I think he's got a cap of, what, 20 days of being on the property at once. He can only stay for 20 days at a time because of a contract that he had signed with the city. So either Palm Beach ignores its own contracts it signed with Donald Trump, or they have to go through the embarrassing situation of kicking out a former president, which would be, of course, absolutely hilarious and sad at the same time. Tears of infinite sadness right here. Okay. Now, other reports have indicated that his two daughters, Ivanka and Tiffany, are heading for Miami, although Jared and Ivanka, I've reported on this before, they bought property at the Billionaire's Bunker over on Indian Creek Island. By the way, the country club that's there, not exactly in favor of admitting both Jared and Ivanka, because, well, I guess they have this no family of failed presidents policy or something. I don't know. Whereas, of course, Don Jr. is looking for a place to live in Jupiter. Not the actual planet, although that would be awesome. Shoot that MFer into space. Please do. Now, Rojas says that Trump supporters say they plan to show their support whenever he arrives. He has a lot of love from people. Well, look, to be fair, I mean, 75 million people voted for Donald Trump. I mean, he does have some love from the Republican Party. Still overwhelmingly favors him. I think his favorability is job approval is somewhere around 72%. And 40% of Republicans want him to run again in 2024. And so, okay, I mean, yes, he is beloved within the party. That, of course, presents a problem for said party. But anyway, and Annie Maria Delgado, a Palm Beach Gardens Trump supporter, said she's encouraging her network to turn out when they move. Quote, regardless of, we're going to welcome him home. There's no stopping that. All right. So they're going to show up to, support Trump. But of course, one thing as South Florida supporters say they will not be doing is also watching the inauguration of Joe Biden. In fact, Goldfarb said this, quote, no. This guy that's going to be inaugurated is not my president. Not my president. Where have we heard that one before? Oh, right. Resistance lives on Twitter, which, by the way, they were mocked by Trump supporters. My, how the tables turn. Love it. Very interesting. Here's what one woman admitted doing. Quote, I'm wearing all black, shutting off my TV when I'm home from work, and lighting a St. Jude candle to pray for our country. Adding that she was, quote, mourning over this injustice. I'm mourning. Don't get away from me. I'm in mourning. I must light my Coke candle. Like, they're treating it like it's a literal funeral. Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing. That's hilarious. This is what happens when you run out of copium. It's just the tears of unfathomable sadness. And I can't help it. But also, now, alongside the tears, of course, is it's lots and lots of anger, which I said, of course, is the default mode for Trump supporters. In fact, Scott Newmark, president of the Americans for Trump, a Broward-based club, says this, quote, amongst Trump supporters, there's a tremendous anger at the establishment of the Republican Party. They feel betrayed, and many are leaving the party and vowing not to support this party in the future. Now, how many people will actually do that? I mean, it remains to be seen. So there are people in the establishment obviously saying, no, that's not going to happen. Yes, they're going to be mad at Trump, but this is the funniest argument here. Yeah, in a couple of years, they'll just forget. And then they'll support whatever Republican we put up. Yeah, they'll just forget about it. They'll forget about Donald Trump, and they'll, forget about this whole thing, and they'll come together because they hate the libs more. So basically, you're saying that your supporters can't remember anything, and so like they've got a short attention span, short memory, and that you can just dupe them because they're stupid. Is that what you're saying? It sounds a lot like that's what you're saying, which is kind of hilarious. I think, though, there's going to be a little bit more of a split. Now, here's what Newmark is also saying, quote, there is a tremendous split, and there will be a reckoning in the next several months within the Republican Party between what I call the Trump MAGA constituency and the party establishment, which at this moment today is not reconcilable. There is a big divide. There is no kumbaya amongst Republicans. There's a real deep split, and it's not going to be easily smoothed over. Now, again, this would be interesting because normally, like, there are factions in the Republican Party, just like there are factions in the Democratic Party. And the thing is, okay, so you've got like the Libertarian wing, you've got the moral majority, you've got the economic conservative Wall Street wing. You've got all those different things that actually do work together. And when push comes to shove, what they've always done is line up lockstep together as a very potent voting bloc. This time, I don't know. I mean, again, that is one thing the Democrats have had a tough time doing, is creating that very reliable voting bloc. The people that turn out, not just on general election, because, you know, the general election, Democrats do turn out, they turn out a lot. 2018, they also turned out, and they turned out a lot. But like normally, during like your midterms and your primaries, well, that's where Democrats don't turn out a lot. And that's the problem with trying to change the Democratic Party to be more progressive. You don't have people that turn out as much during the primary elections, especially younger voters who tend to get more progressive. And so we should actually do something to try to help, you know, not only educate people on how to do primaries and why to get involved in primaries, but when they are, and of course, also standardizing some rules to make voting during primaries easier, which makes it harder to, you know, put your thumb on the scale, which we've seen before. So, you know, there's that. Okay. But back to the Republican Party, if there is a real split, like what I've heard, like a kind of like a Trump MAGA party, well, that's going to be disastrous for the Republican Party, because right now, the way that the system is set up, third parties tend to be spoilerish, right? No matter how much someone like me, for example, would love to have a third party challenge and love to see like a third party come up and bust the Democrats up the side of the head, right? And right now, with the system set up the way that it is, we can't see anything like that. We need things like ranked choice voting. We need to break the two-party duopoly in the system itself before you can actually have those third parties come out and be able to actually compete with these parties without being a spoiler, without forcing people into the, well, you have to vote for the Democrats because, you know, spoiler, you don't want, you know, this 2016 to happen again, or whatever, right? Whatever excuse they're going to try to come up with. So there's that. All right. So now, anyway, that split, that's going to be very interesting to see what happens from this. Okay, we have to see where that goes. Now, the one thing that powers this rift within the Republican Party is, unfortunately, conspiracy theories. Big one being voter fraud. I mean, you've all heard it, right? The Republican establishment has admitted, like, yeah, we kind of ran on voter fraud, but then at the same time, we couldn't find any. William Barr at the DOJ couldn't find any voter fraud. Nothing. Okay? And so they couldn't find that widespread voter fraud, despite Donald Trump and his allies saying, no, it's there. Voter fraud, Biden stole the election. Well, none of that's true. None of that's true. But enough people believe it so that there is so much anger at the establishment Republicans. And so Rojas and Goldfarb, of course, unfortunately fell into that camp. In fact, here's Rojas saying this: everybody would be okay if there had been an honest election. Most of the people I talked to don't believe the election was fair. But that doesn't mean anything. Oh, okay, well, you talk to the same people in your bubble that are all listening to the same kind of news sources, then no, you're not going to get unbiased information. And here's the thing, that almost half of all Republicans believe that the election was not fair. But they're a minority of a minority. They're a minority of a minority party. Whereas you have most Americans, a large percentage of Americans, that, as well as the institutions, as well as investigations, all are saying the same thing. We couldn't find any evidence of voter fraud. And if you had it, we would love to see it, because it turns out we also don't like voter fraud. And we'd like to do something about it. But since you can't prove that it exists, well, then what can we do? We can't just go with unfounded conspiracy theories. Again, I'd love to see actual evidence of voter fraud. And by actual evidence, I don't mean somebody's crappy YouTube video that doesn't really show anything, that has been debunked a ton of times. Okay, not interested in seeing that, because that's not evidence. If there were real evidence, it would have been admitted in court. But it wasn't. Unfortunately, you know, for them, they can't prove their case. And if you can't prove your case, then you don't really have a case. That said, Barnett of the, Goldfarb said this: they stole the election. It's horrible what they did to the president. And Barnett, the Palm Beach County Republican chairman, said, we believe, despite what a lot of people say, as I mentioned, all the experts and people who looked at the evidence, who studied the evidence, all that stuff. Even people, and understand, there are people who wanted desperately to find voter fraud. The president and his commission wanted to find voter fraud. They wanted to find it. It would have been good for them politically to find it and then crush it. They still couldn't find it. They couldn't find it because it's not there. It doesn't exist. And so, nonetheless, they say, no. We think the election was stolen. What evidence do we have? We don't have any. And so we just don't. And so they're living in an alternate reality. Sorry, but if you believe that there is voter fraud without evidence, and you think that, oh no, the people who really wanted to look for it couldn't find it because they weren't really looking for it, because they didn't really want to find it, even though it would have been awesome for them to be able to find it, because it would have proved them right, but for some reason they didn't want to because, I don't know, Antifa, Deep State, whatever conspiracy you can come up with. I'm sorry, but you like, no, you got to bring it back to reality. You have to stick with the facts are. The facts are there, and we know the facts. And the fact is, voter fraud is so incredibly rare, okay, in this country, that it is negligible, infinitesimally small. Does it exist? Yes. Hasn't happened before? Yes. Ironically, we keep finding Trump supporters that do it. But as evidence of it actually swinging big monumental elections, no, there's no evidence of that at all. Now, has there been election fraud itself? Yes, there has been evidence of election fraud. There has been evidence of, not in this election, but ballot stuffing, okay? And so, guess what? That also gets found out because we have robust systems in place to prevent our democracy from being hijacked in those ways. That's it. I mean, if you don't want to accept the facts, then I'm sorry, I can't help you. You're not living in the same reality as the rest of us. But as far as Republican 101, I mean, that's what it is. They don't believe in climate change. They don't believe in scientific evidence. They don't believe in facts. They don't believe in reality. So I guess, no surprise. All right. So yeah, I think I'm fairly clear about that. All right, anyway. Let's move on. We're going to get to more conspiracies in a minute. In a couple of minutes. But first, let's do some fun. We have ridiculous Republicans saying ridiculous things. All right. In the weeks following the failed insurrection attempt at the Capitol, which put both Democratic and Republican politicians in real physical danger of being hurt or even killed, I mean, this crowd was chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." I'm not a fan of Mike Pence, but I certainly don't want to see that happen. So now, not only they put in potential physical danger, but you also had people who may have infected them with COVID-19 or attempt to infect them with COVID-19. And that's not counting the politicians, the Republican politicians who refused to mask up and actually did give 3 Democratic members of the House COVID-19. All right, so that said, after all that, some Republicans tried to distance themselves from the rioters, even after kind of encouraging them. So now one of them was Representative Madison Cawthorn, who had slightly encouraged these, rioters to go out and hold their politicians accountable. Well, I don't have any problem with holding politicians accountable. You're calling their office, holding a protest outside their office. All of that is 100% fine. That's democracy right there. Or even, mounting a primary challenge. That's also a great thing that I support. But you know, that's not what these Capitol rioters were interested in doing. But that's okay, right? It's not. But as far as where I'm going with the story here and explaining what happened, Representative Madison Cawthorn, he's going to claim that, well, the rioters weren't really, I mean, they weren't really on our side. It was agitators. It was agitators. In fact, here's what he said on Charlie Kirk's show.
And then they came and said they started locking the doors to the House chamber. Said, hey, we're going to keep you all here. There's some people who have broke through, you know, the first few lines of security, and they are now on the House steps, which leads directly into the Capitol building. After that point, we then had somebody come in. They told us to prepare to put on our hazmat suits and escape hoods, which, you know, because they started firing tear gas to try and disperse this crowd that had made it into the Capitol Rotunda, the beautiful, iconic image everybody knows. And then some people made it into Statuary Hall, which is literally just on the other side of the door of the House chamber. And this was a very rowdy crowd, very intent on violence, you know, chanting that they wanted to stop the steal. But, you know, Charlie, if it's coming from me, I believe that this was agitators strategically placed inside of this group. You can call them Antifa, you can call them people paid by the Democratic machine, but to make the Trump campaign, the Trump movement look bad, and to make this look like it was a violent outrage, when really, you know, the battle is being fought by people like myself and other great patriots.
Oh, well, okay. So it wasn't people that were mad that the election was quote unquote stolen from them, right? I mean, because that's kind of the whole reason why a lot of them say that they were there, because they wanted to, you know, stop the steal, right? But no, according to Cawthorn, he says no, it's the agitators, Antifa. Now imagine being one of the so-called patriots who believe with every fiber of their being that it was their duty to go to the Capitol, right? And take it back from the commies and the socialists for Donald Trump, right? To ensure that the Republicans stand strong and vote against the certification of fake Biden, the fake Biden presidency of the Biden crime family. Imagine being one of those guys who's so, you know, filled with patriotic fervor, that you would go and do that and break some windows and you know, go into Nancy Pelosi's office and steal her mail. I know, right? We're taking back the government. Trump we trust. Trump sent us. But now you're one of those people later on, and you're getting arrested for it. Your picture is online, okay, for everyone to see. You got the government after you, and you're seeing this douchebag, Cawthorn, who, by the way, kind of encouraged you to do it, right? Along with, I mean, kind of, I say for Cawthorn because he's a bit more measured in his language. But you had like Rudy saying, trial by combat. We're going to do a trial by combat. That's what we're going to do. And guess what? We're also, you know, we need you to go down and march down Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay? Yeah, we need to fight or else you're not going to have a country anymore. Okay? That's the stuff that they're saying. But now you're seeing these people now call you Antifa and a paid Democrat operative. And then, again, going back to Trump, disavowing you, and then saying, there will be a seamless transition. It was my pleasure. I'm very proud to be your president. I was proud to be your president for 4 years. We're going to do a seamless transition of power. Well, there you go. How dumb would you feel right now? How dumb? How dumb do you feel that you got played? Like, you listened to that person and you played yourself. You weren't going to stop the steal. What steal? There was no steal. You were trying to do the steal. That's what the steal was. That's what the steal was. Okay, you got to feel stupid. Hey, people make mistakes. There's something called mob mentality, right? And that's what it was. You were part of the mob. Hence the mob mentality. Sure. But the thing is, again, if you did this, you were part of the mob. And what you did was bad. What you did was wrong. Maybe you should own up to it. And also, maybe you should realize, wait a minute. Was I influenced to do this? Yes, Yes, you were. You were influenced by politicians, by Donald Trump, who wants only to keep his own power, because that's what politicians do, and that's what people who are powerful want to do. Okay? Rudy Giuliani, who's in it for the money, okay, to go and do this thing, which would make sure, or attempt to make sure, that Donald Trump stays in power. And that's it. And your whole thing was, I'm going to go in the Capitol, I'm going to storm the Capitol, I'm going to pressure and threaten Republicans into overturning the election by not supporting the certification. And that's what happened. But Cawthorn says, oh, well, it wasn't, it wasn't the Patriots. No. As it was happening, no, it's not Patriots. It was Antifa. Oh, of course it was Antifa. You have any proof of that? No? Oh, how many people that are Antifa got arrested? Not really any that I can think of. But there were plenty of live streamers that are conservative. Baked Alaska is one example, okay, that were literally live streaming their crimes on air, them doing felonies. Can you really explain that? No, you can't. You can't, unless somehow. And here's the thing, right? There's two competing theories here that Cawthorn is putting out. Okay, is that every single so-called patriot that Cawthorn was talking to in that crowd, or almost every single patriot, quote unquote, was secret Antifa, even though there's no pink hair anywhere in that crowd, okay? Or masks, by the way. That's some really deep diving into that, okay? Well, I mean, the Antifa, making sure they don't have the pink hair, they somehow get to be real big, buff, patriot-looking guys, okay? And they don't, and they decide, well, I mean, even though, like, we're totally cucked and wear masks, we're not going to do that in the Capitol. In fact, we're going to take our masks off and then live stream ourselves doing crime. Really? You think that's what happened? Instead, they're all the secret Antifers. And that since they're all secret Antifers, the real patriots were smart enough to stay home and not protest in favor of Donald Trump to stop this stealing of an election that you said was the most important election in the history of the country. But okay, wait. Okay, wait. Or, here's the other one. Your supporters are dumb enough to follow secret Antifa into the Capitol, building, like literally live streaming their own crimes inside the building. Both of those theories are not good and make you look really freaking dumb. And also, it looks like Cawthorn is throwing you both like all under the bus, as well as Trump, as well as everyone else. And they think that you're idiot sheep enough, dumb enough to do that. Hey, look, I didn't say it. Okay, he did. He said it. Wasn't me. I'm just interpreting what he said. Sad, baby. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to conspiracy theories. Fun times. Fox News is no stranger to getting in trouble on behalf of many of its more colorful, quote-unquote, news personalities, right? The broadcasters, the stars, people like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Lou Dobbs. But none have been more damaging to the company itself than those who push the Seth Rich conspiracy. Ah, yes, Seth Rich. That's rich. Okay, but it turns out, as I said, you might not have known that Fox News just paid a settlement to the family of Seth Rich. On October 12, 2020, Fox News agreed to pay millions of dollars to the family of the murdered DNC staff member known as Seth Rich. And so what this is, of course, is that it's basically an admission that the network had hyped up a false claim that the young staff member was indeed involved in leaking DNC emails during the 2016 presidential campaign. Interesting. So, all right. Now, this is from the New York Times, who reports that, you know, who reports that this had happened. Okay. So, yes, this was a settlement to the family for putting out literal fake news about some poor staffer that got murdered. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So now this lawsuit, this settlement's an admission that the network had hyped this up, that made these false claims and made money off of it. But it turns out that in reality, you had Russian intelligence officers that hacked the emails, leaked them to WikiLeaks. Of course, WikiLeaks doing what they did as a journalistic outlet, they decided to release them. The timing happened to be around the 2016 election, which worked out perfectly. So now they didn't care where the information comes from, and I think that's fine, so long as it's legit information. And the emails were absolutely legit. These weren't fake emails that were fabricated by Russian intelligence. It's ridiculous. I actually covered these emails back in 2016. I talked about this, and we actually learned, as a result of these emails, how the DNC treats outsiders. They treat them badly. If you're a challenger to the Democratic establishment, they're going to come for you, okay? But regardless of where the emails came from, they were a valuable, important look into the corruption of the Democratic establishment, and since have been used to usher, albeit slowly, slow changes to the party to try to make it a little bit better. Now, obviously, as a progressive, we've got a long way to go, okay? We've got a lot of work ahead of us to try to reshape the party into one that's not like the one before, okay? That serves, you know, that actually serves the people and can also actually win against Republicans and bring about real change. That said, Fox News did not cover that angle of the DNC emails. Instead, they decided to go with the Seth Rich thing. Because of course they did, right? Hillary Clinton murdered a staffer. Now, look, Hillary Clinton's a lot of things. I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton. I don't like Hillary Clinton, all right? I think she's center-right economically on a lot of issues. I think she's a foreign policy imperialist. Not good. But I also don't think she's out there drinking the blood of innocents. I don't think that. Also, I don't think she's out there ordering hit jobs on DNC staffers. Okay, I just don't think that happened. There's no evidence of that. Again, I live in an evidence-based world, so you know if you actually have real evidence of those kinds of situations actually happening, well, okay, well then you would have presented it, right? But okay, and the thing is, the family of Seth Rich sued because Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity wouldn't stop lying about their slain family member, even though they requested that they stop doing so. Fox not only didn't, but they continued to allow these hosts to rub it in. Like, oh, Seth Rich is dead, Seth Rich is dead. Yeah, he was killed by the DNC, murdered by the DNC. You can't just let it go. Now, the timing of this was actually pretty interesting, too, of the settlement itself. Fox's decision to settle with the Rich family came just before its hosts, Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity, were set to be questioned under oath in the case, a potentially embarrassing moment. It's because they didn't want them in front of a judge. Because that would have been a pretty big news moment, would have been a pretty big trial. And then they would have had to admit in front of a court, in front of a judge that like, no, we're just making this thing up. We're making this whole thing up. It'd be just like Alex Jones. I'm an actor. You can't actually trust anything that I say. Or Tucker Carlson. Oh, well, no one could actually believe all the things that I'm saying. I mean, come on, I'm an actor. I'm just being an entertainment person. That's all I'm saying. So they love to hide behind that defense. And so that was interesting. Not only that, but another interesting fact is that Fox News actually paid so much that they didn't actually have to apologize for it. There was a story back in 2016 of FoxNews.com that talked about this that ended up having to get retracted. But it gets better. One provision that they had, that they had insisted on during the settlement. Okay, we're going to pay you millions and millions of dollars, sure. But can we get one thing? And we got to keep it secret for a month. Just a month, till after the election is over. Okay? So now basically that means that, a story that would expose us for being shameless liars and hurting a family of a killed staffer. We want to make sure that that's covered up, that nobody knows how shamelessly we've lied about this particular family during an election year. Now, that's really interesting. Now, the other interesting fact is that maybe they also did this because of Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is buying into this conspiracy. There's almost there's almost no conspiracy that President Trump doesn't actually actively buy into. I mean, he is very conspiratorial minded. And so from what we've seen, birther conspiracy, for example, Seth Rich, obviously the election fraud stuff, although I think he more believes in that because that affects him directly. So yeah, it's, again, pretty ridiculous. And so now Fox News and their lawyer, Joe Terry, declined to answer why they wanted to keep it secret. Two people close to the case shared details of the settlement with Ben Smith, who was also confused. So they're like, that's an interesting question. Why? Why didn't they want this? Why was one of the conditions to keep it buried until after the election? Definitely politically motivated. Definitely. Maybe they thought, again, Donald Trump would be pissed off about it, would leave, and a lot of Trump supporters would lose faith in the network. I don't know. But regardless, it happened. And so now, maybe one of the reasons too is that this report pushed back on what's known as Russiagate. So now, Russiagate, I used to think I knew what it means. Maybe I don't know what it means anymore. What is it anymore? It's kind of turned into this nebulous thing. Okay? Very, very nebulous thing. In fact, look, I know what I know. Russia hacked the DNC. Yeah, of course. And guess what? They also did social media trolling and had bot farms. And of course, you had the efforts to connect with the Trump administration as well, or the Trump campaign. That said, I don't think it changed votes. I don't think there's no evidence that Russian hacked elections or changed vote totals or are really responsible for Donald Trump's win. Did they try to use whatever influence they could? Sure, through social media. That's only going to reach people who generally already had a dislike of the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton. So really, you're just reinforcing that echo chamber on social media, okay? But it is obvious, though, that they did favor Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton and tried to offer him material support. We've seen that. Maybe because they knew he's a disaster or whatever. Now, on the disaster part, they were actually right. That said, can you blame Hillary Clinton's loss on Russia? No. At the end of the day, Russia didn't run Hillary Clinton's campaign into the ground, which absolutely happened. Didn't stop her from campaigning in certain states, etc. I think the Russian stuff has been weaponized and politicized by both sides. Yes, I know, this is the one time I'm going to play the both sides game. All right? And here's why. Liberal Democrats blame Russia. They see Russia, everything Russia, as an evil, plot. While Republicans ignore that Russia did interfere in the 2016 election because they themselves, Russia has imperialist ambitions. Well, so does America. America's imperialist. Russia wants to be imperialist. Russia's like, yeah, we want what you have. We want to exert our control over the other countries, over our part of the world. And so, if America's foreign policy is stunted or they align with our goals, well, that helps us in the long run. And of course, we've seen that with the annexation of Crimea and the budding relationship with both the Turks and al-Assad. But again, I really don't want to litigate 2016 or relitigate 2016 again and again and again. But I feel like I needed to do that in order to help give you some context into this, the proper context. Because this conspiracy was made, I think, partly to deflect suspicions of Russian involvement in trying to help the Donald Trump campaign. And that's it. The fact is, there's never been a shred of credible evidence that Seth Rich had any sort of contact with the Russians, or WikiLeaks, and a series of bipartisan investigations found that the DNC had been breached by hackers in the Russian intelligence agency. And then, of course, we had investigations. We had people that looked into the facts. We had, numerous corroboration of this from different agencies. Nothing pointed to Seth Rich. Just some people online with YouTube channels. And, of course, Republicans who just for some reason felt like caping for Russia. I don't know why. I don't know why. And by the way, when you look at the people that are still spreading this conspiracy, I don't know. It seems clear to me that this is a death, unfortunate, that was weaponized for political purposes. And so it's divorced from the facts. And that has, of course, a devastating effect on the families. Okay? Because the people that knew him best, the more that they hear his name being used in this way, in this manner, I mean, that's got to kill you. That's got to hurt you so much, hearing all of this stuff. All right? I mean, they had to watch in real time conspiracy theorists on Fox News and other places say all sorts of unfounded garbage. Which, by the way, that story immediately collapsed after it got released. In fact, the former Washington, D.C. police detective whom Fox used as its on-the-record source, Rod Wheeler, immediately took it back. He repudiated his own quotes, claiming ties between Mr. Rich and WikiLeaks and a cover-up, and said in a deposition this fall that the Fox News article had been, quote, pre-written before I even got involved. Pre-written. So, yeah, he just happened to say what Fox News wanted him to say. But it took him being under oath. And that's, of course, why this settlement happened in the first place, because they didn't want the people that are spreading this conspiracy on Fox News to go and actually have to sit in front of a judge and face perjury charges. As it turns out, you can't actually lie in court because you're going to get in trouble. You're going to have a bad time. It's going to be not good. In fact, Aaron Rich, the family member, said it fell apart within the general public within 24 hours, yet Hannity pushed it for another week. Finally, Aaron Rich said he sent Mr. Hannity and his producer an email, and the barrage stopped, but he said he never received an apology from the Fox host. Quote, he never got back to me to say, sorry for ruining your family's life and pushing something there's no basis to. Apparently, sorry is a hard 5-letter word for him. True. And a Fox News spokesperson, Irina Briganti, declined to comment on Mr. Rich's request for an apology. That's all he wanted. For him to say, we're sorry for, using the death of your son, your family member, as a way to push this ridiculous conspiracy theory on our site. Oops. Even so, the damage had been done. Okay? His parents said in a court filing that the barrage of conspiracy theories had damaged her mental health and cost their mother, Mary, her ability to both work and socialize. And while they did stop doing it, Rich's brother said that they wished they would have owned up to it. But as you can see, of course, that happened to never be in the cards. They had never admitted they lit the fire, he said, which at this point online is still burning. There are still people that are spreading this conspiracy theory, even people on the left. So, I mean, it's ridiculous to see this happen. To see conspiracy theories and fake news about this person continue to get spread just to harm the family and push back in this ridiculous, just to push back in this ridiculous way. But now Fox News, I think, in addition to paying damages to the family, which they're doing, should issue a public apology. But again, they were able to weasel out of that, and not have to do a complete repudiation of the conspiracy. It's because, well, even though they can't talk about it anymore, well, their viewers still believe it. They believe it, and so that is something that if you decide, no, I don't believe in that, then you're no longer part of that group. And, well, for a Republican, for a news network, especially that has competitors like Newsmax and OAN, of which, you know, Republicans are now increasingly going there because these networks haven't been hit by these conspiracies yet. Well, or I should say charges for these conspiracies, for spreading these things. Well, I mean, the obvious choice for Fox News was to push it as far as they can in order to get the monies. And that's usually what it's all about, the monies. All right. So Russiagate's a conspiracy too. Partly, it depends on what you mean by Russiagate. Like, if you mean like the Russians are doing everything wrong and it's never the Democratic politicians' fault for not doing things that a basic campaign should do, then yeah, that's a conspiracy theory because it's ridiculous. It doesn't match up with actual facts. But like, when it comes to, did Russia hack into the DNC and release the emails? Yeah. Sure. Now, that said, I still think Julian Assange was doing his job as a personal motives aside, because Julian Assange, of course, hates Hillary Clinton because, well, Hillary Clinton did promise to drone him. And so, okay, well, hey, I understand why you would not like that person. And to try to go after him, okay, yeah, I could understand why you would not want that person to win. And if you just happen to have damaging material that just happened to fall in your lap as a result of the Russians, would you not release it? Pretty sure you would. But even so, the act of releasing it to the public was still a matter of journalism. And so at that point, it's like, well, he's got a journalistic agency. Why not? Why not release it? Because that's kind of your job. Now, I wish they had, if they had information on Trump, that it would also release it as well. That's what I would have hoped to do that. Did Russia have a significant influence on the election? Conspiracy theory says yes. I don't think they did have a huge influence on the election. I think it was more in these extreme right-wing echo chambers where you saw, the conspiracies, the emails about Hillary Clinton. For leftists, it was about stuff that we already kind of figured. Yeah, that they screwed over Bernie Sanders. They put the thumb on the scale. And for that, it's like, well, here's what we need to do. We need to actually change the party, both from within and from without, using outside and inside pressure. But again, that goes to a bigger conversation. I never liked Hillary Clinton either. She was never lesser enough and evil for me. Look, I get it. But that's how I feel about all of our Democratic presidential picks at this point. But I still end up voting for the lesser of two evils because if I don't, it's the greater evil. So anyway, I actually don't want to do some good news here. So let's do it. Or I should say some positive news. It appears the Keystone XL pipeline might finally be dead. Oh, this is good. So now this is according to a report in the CBC that happened on Sunday. It appears that President-elect Joe Biden may cancel the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline during his first days in office. So there's a lot of things that he says he's going to do in the first 100 days. Doing this would literally be the easiest thing that you could do. Good. Sources told the outlet that the Biden team had drafted an internal planning document with a slate of early executive actions meant to reverse environmental policies from the Trump era, which the Trump era, their only policies were to reverse anything that Obama had done. So really, we're doing a reversal here. A reversal of a reversal to try to make sure that we end up basically back before Trump took office. So that's what's going on here. Now, that said, is it good? Yes. Decent news, right? We all know that Keystone XL would have been terrible because it would have taken tar sands from Alberta down to Texas, which, you know, would have accelerated, obviously, the burning of said tar sands. Now, that tar sands, oil itself is bad, okay, for the environment. Tar sands are much, much worse. They're that much dirtier and destructive. So, I mean, if you have a choice between burning regular oil and tar sands, both suck, but one's obviously going to have a worse negative impact on the environment than the other. All right, so there you go. That said, I think this is part of a fracking. Let's be honest. I think this decision is not wholly because of Biden standing up as some arbiter of the Green New Deal, right? And that I am now the environmental god. I shall now undo not only everything that Donald Trump has done, but I shall make the planet green. No, that's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't suddenly turn into Captain Planet. Okay, that's it. This is a small step. This is an obvious step that we knew he was probably going to take anyway. And so, hey, all right, hey, you know, I'll take it. Well, at least we'll get back to where we were and stop making things worse. At least, you know, that much worse, even though it's still getting worse. It's still getting worse. Now, we need to do better, which is what we should be doing. That said, 350.org, here's what they said on Sunday. They said it was a momentous sign that Biden is listening, taking action, and making good on his promises to people on the planet. By ensuring the Keystone XL is reversed, Biden is standing on the side of tribal nations, farmers, ranchers, and many communities whose livelihoods would be wrecked by this dirty pipeline. We look forward to working with the administration to ensure that real climate action that transitions us off fossil fuels into a just renewable energy economy is the cornerstone of Biden's legacy of the next 4 years. So look, again, I don't want to downplay this, but I don't want to, overplay it either. It's what we expect Biden to do. To put in the most, normal-ish, kind of weakish, like, let's return to normal kind of things that he could do. Okay? And so, is he going to continue fracking? Yes. Is oil going to still continue to be a major source of American energy? Unfortunately, yes. Right? Look, he's not Captain Planet. Okay, he's not going to be transformative. He's even said that we're not going to do anything transformative. Things are going to essentially be the same. Which he means going back, nothing will fundamentally change, which means we're going to go back to 2016 or before Donald Trump got into office. And while that was good back then, with Trump, we lost 4 years to do something about the climate. And so we really do need to be bolder. We really need better action, especially now. Bernie Sanders is the chairman of the budget committee. We can actually put something in for the climate. Not only that, but I believe the pay-go exemptions that were exchanged for members of the squad voting for Nancy Pelosi to be speaker, these pay-go exemptions involved with climate change, which means we could be closer to a Green New Deal. And with Bernie Sanders, the budget committee, we don't even need Republicans at this point. So that's what we need. Like, okay, so let's do something. Let's actually do something for the climate and enact the Green New Deal. And because, again, we lost 4 years with Trump. We already were running out of time before. And so while this, yes, is a step in the good direction, it has to be more. It has to be a lot more. We've got to go big. We've got to go bold. We have to go, and enact a Green New Deal and really push forward with those bold policy initiatives, because we're already too late and we're still running out of time. So let's go. All right, let's go. What a DNZ shill. I know, right? I guess apparently I'm getting oil money. Come on, you guys are ridiculous. Unless that's a joke, which, by the way, hilarious. All right. PAYGO was not negotiated by Squad. The fake news. Who are these people? You realize they did negotiate, like they did like do PAYGO exemptions. Okay, so that's good trolling. I like that. I heard permafrost melted down to an animal. What? Okay. Skeptic about it. I think Democrats are acting weird already, trying not to let us get our hopes up. Look, we can't, like, obviously with the Democrats, it doesn't just rely on hope, guys. Like, we have to have outside and inside pressure. Come on. Like, what is it? Okay, so my problem is that there are people that think, no, well, now we've got Biden, now we don't have to do anything, right? No, that's ridiculous. No, what we need to do is pressure. Unlike anything because like, okay, the point of like, the reason that we didn't pressure anybody from the Trump administration is because we couldn't affect anyone from the Trump administration. We might be able to have some sort of impact, influence on this. Okay? These are dumb answers that don't pair with the truth. What do you mean? Pressure campaigns. We got to do something. We can't just like do nothing. All right. Let's see. All right. So I want to read some super chats here. Perel says, "Can I get an ATN in the Hallerstone soundboard?" Unfortunately, not yet. I haven't been working on that. I probably should. Dango says, Vaush is debating a Proud Boy. All right. Rebecca Jones is in jail, Florida DOC. All right. Christina Oaks says, party personal responsibilities, never take personal responsibility for anything they've ever done. True. Thank you, Road Jedi, for the very kind $50. Much appreciated. Am I trying to get a new graphics card? No. No. I mean, Eli, I do need a 3080 if anybody's listening, but you know, no, come on. The only way we could have pressured the Trump administration is by telling them to do less for the climate, and they might have done better out of spite. Oh, abolish ICE. Screw them. Oh, thank you, Jeanette. Appreciate that. I didn't know what you meant by that. Reading the chat. I love you, chat. I love you. You're very special. You're very special, chat, to me. True though. Very true. All right. Anyway, I think if you don't help the climate, just to own the libs. I actually suggested that. Like, here's what we need to do. We need to get Donald Trump to be in favor of Medicare for all by telling them that Medicare for all would own the libs. Own the libs. That's what you need to do. All right. Anyway, thank you all. That's all I got for the stream today. So, thank you all. Please like and share if you haven't already. Again, thanks for helping us get to 151,000 subscribers. Very nice. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Tell them that Medicare for all would piss off Biden. It would. It probably would. They would be very mad. Am I going to oil my beard? Who oils their beard? Proud Boys oil their beards? What? What is that? What is that bougie beard shit? No. No. Game stream. I gotta work on some things. I actually have to get this stuff edited and posted up online. So, and then get some other things done. So probably no game stream tonight, but I've oiled my beard. It's for ingrown hair. Oh, okay. See, I didn't know. I don't know about this thing. So I'm part of the new beard club. And that's what that is. All right. Anyway, thank you all. Appreciate you all. Love you. See you all tomorrow. Thanks for going around the nation with me. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See y'all later.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.